Hello and welcome to Instant Transmission, a podcast where we discuss everything Dragon Ball and whether time is actually a line. Tonight, we've got another Dragon Ball Z movie locked and loaded as we cover the adventures of Lord Slug and his crew of merry aliens. Lean back and clear the salt from your snail trail because we're coming in actually quite cold this one. I'm your host, Dayton, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Todd.
Hi.
Tonight's episode will be covering the 1991 movie release Dragon Ball Z Lord Slug, which made its way over to the States in 2001. According to the wiki, this movie takes place chronologically after Goku's arrival on Namek, but before the final battle with Frieza, which I'm sure nobody has any questions about. So with all that covered, was there anything you wanted to add before we got things started, Todd?
Just that point in the timeline is hilarious, but otherwise, let's jump in.
All right, well, the movie begins with the full Dragon Ball Shala intro, followed by a panning shot of a serene forest and waterfall where Piccolo floats above in deep meditation. I'm pretty sure Gohan says something, but it wasn't in English, so I had to immediately switch over to the dub before I could let this play anymore. I also noticed by doing this that the dub has the Shala music, but they deleted all the singing. So there's no voices, it's just the music, and I think it's to protect my sensitive American ears from being offended by a foreign language.
I kind of had the same experience where I was listening to the Japanese Chala Head Chala and then turned over to the English, which is like a weird, I don't know, it's like a variant on the music, but it's also like, it's funny to me. I don't know what happened to Rock the Dragon, but I wish we got more Rock the Dragon.
I mean, I don't know. It just made me laugh where it's just like, oh, we're just going to do nothing, I guess. All right, you could have just played the other stuff, but it was a decision they made. And I mean, going forward, I hope they don't keep making that decision because it's kind of lame, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel the same. But we kind of get into the movie here with
in
Gohan,
English, which is important.
In English. This is a throwback too. I haven't watched this, like the original English dub for this, in probably 20 plus years. But we kind of get this scene with Gohan and his purple pet dragon Icarus finding Piccolo at the waterfall, and Gohan shows Piccolo that Icarus can dance, which involves some Gohan whistling a little tune. Piccolo doesn't seem to like the dance, however, and yells at Gohan to stop.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that Piccolo got so irritated, but we don't really spend much time on it though, as Piccolo kind of turns around and quickly notices that there's some sort of evil ball heading towards planet Earth. And we also learn that this big evil ball is inhabited thanks to a brief scene with Mr. Briefs looking through a telescope at it.
Yeah, so this is kind of bringing up at least some sort of conflict very quickly in the movie here. We basically see, I think they show a newscaster basically saying like, oh, Earth is going to get blown up. Sucks to be us. And then Goku and Krillin quickly are on the scene to they're trying to not destroy this planet that's coming towards Earth. They're trying to deflect it because they don't want to kill all the people on it.
So it doesn't take us long to get here. And so it's at about this point that I noticed that there's some very American sounding rock and roll music being played to the background of this. So I decided to do a quick Google search. And according to Google AI, this Funimation dub features several rock songs, including tracks by Finger 11, Dust for Life, American Pearl, Disturbed, Defbones, and Boy Hits Car, and Breaking Point. So there's like 7 different American bands that they picked like popular rock music from to put on this film, which I don't think they did on any of the other ones, right? This is the first one they decided that we want to super Americanize this.
They did do it on at least 1 or 2 other ones. I can't remember if they did it on the first 3, but I'm pretty sure that, in fact, I'm positive they did this with the movie number 5, Cooler's Revenge. This is the first one that I really remember them having it in, though, because I remember even as a kid, like, being like, oh, this music's so cool and edgy, and going and finding, like, the bands that did the music for this movie. Watching it this time, though, it feels pretty out of place.
Yeah, it's very jarring especially because I had mistakenly, played Shala and then restarted, and now I'm getting very Americanized music kind of played over this, which honestly, I mean, when you're 13 and you see this being played on TV, it's kind of rad because you probably have heard these songs before too. Maybe it gets you excited. But I don't know, 20-ish years later, ooh, it feels super out of place. I don't think I like it, but at the same time, they were I feel like Funimation might have been in like a growing phase at this point where they're figuring things out still.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this was in a time in like the 90s or early 2000s where anime wasn't hadn't been like fully adopted into America, and it very much anytime they did adopt it, it was heavily Americanized. Um, there's like a part of me that enjoys this like goofy modern rock music because I don't know if it's nostalgia or if it's just like kind of comical that that was the choice that they made. Um, and admittedly, there are some scenes where like the music is actually it's well timed and placed, despite the music feels strange for the scene.
Yeah, it wasn't just jammed in there. I felt that usually the music was trying to work with the scene that was playing out on screen, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. I think it's just not aged super well, but I'm also kind of with you where that music also has nostalgia with it as well. So it kind of like really throws me back all at once.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't hate it. It's just kind of funny and awkward a little bit. Um
So this type of music kind of plays throughout the movie. Whenever something's happening, there's some classic well, not even classic. I guess retro American rock at this point playing.
yeah. But this kind of turns into the this planet that Goku and Krillin they shoot a Kamehameha at. It doesn't hit Earth, however, it kind of like deviates and explodes. This turns into though a a spaceship basically landing on Earth, presumably from this other planet, um, to which our well, Gohan, Balma, Chi Chi, and Oolong go and check this out. Goku and Krillin basically got knocked out by the planet almost hitting the Earth,
That was
apparently.
really weird that they got almost knocked out, but everyone else is more or less. I know they like flew up to deal with it, but come on, like these are two very, very powerful beings.
There's a lot of oddities like that in this movie.
I do want to point out though, I actually think the design for like the spaceship is really cool because it's designed in a way where it looks like almost like a black palace. It's very foreboding and it looks like it's very built up. Something that you would imagine someone of evil royalty riding around in. So uh, it's not a huge point to this because we just kind of get a few shots of it. But I thought they actually did a good job of making it look cool and unique to Lord Slug.
I agree. In shape and design, it's a little bit like Frieza's ships, the ones that were like kind of saucer shaped. But yeah, it looks cool. I actually also even like they're relatively simple, but I like the designs of the guys who come out of the ship, like the henchmen. And we see them here as a bunch of humans go to like check out this spaceship that crashed near their city, and these aliens come out and are basically like, we're here to take over your planet. And the humans are just like, all right, just you guys are funny.
They're even laughing because they announced that they're taking over the planet in the name of Lord Slug. Like a slug, gross. Ugh, get that out of here. And
And then,
I also want
good.
to laugh at the. So, why is it that most soldiers in Dragon Ball, most space soldiers, wear spandex and armor? Like, what is that the most elite fighting armor in the universe? Is there a reason why everyone ends up on that?
Yeah, it's funny. And that's kind of the design that I'm talking about that I do like, but it is also funny that that's like they're kind of wearing I mean, like the Saiyans, like Vegeta wears, they're wearing a very similar style to like Vegeta's spandex, like armor on the torso, white boots, white gloves, and then these guys have this sort of like almost long alien head helmet. Um, yeah, I don't know. I like it because it fits the Dragon Ball aesthetic, but now that you say that, it is a little bit funny.
I laughed a little bit. I do think the helmets add a lot of personality, though. That's not something you see on a lot of the other elite fighting soldiers, and if you do, it looks very different than these ones. Um, but yeah, we see these soldiers. They walk out. They announce the Lord Slug has claimed this planet, and we kind of flip inside the ship, And this is where we see this large, almost rotund green man sitting on this kind of throne on top of like a set of stairs, and he's surrounded by four servants. Now, you might have taken the time to do this, but I did not take the time to investigate their names because every single movie I find out who they are, what their names are, and it ends up not mattering. And I'm glad I didn't because a few moments later, we see one of the henchmen berating the short green man at a control panel, demanding that he hurry and terra freeze the planet since Lord Slug can't wait because of his age. Well, Lord Slug gets offended by this and immediately kills one of these elite henchmen guarding him. So, yep, glad I didn't look up those names because we're already down one.
Yeah, I even the main ones, I think I only know maybe one of their names just because it's a funny one. But yeah, this like big, bulky, kind of demon looking guy just gets blasted for saying something that our presumably our Lord Slug here does not like. And we kind of find that, you know, Lord Slug is pretty unreasonable. He wants things to be done quick, efficient, and if you don't comply with his wants and needs, he's going to murder you.
Yeah, he's not a good dude. So I actually do kind of like this scene because we're really being shown in an economical way that this is an evil dude. This is a strong evil man with zero patience. So I actually think this scene is fairly clever and economic story writing. So I actually give props to this scene.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that this movie, I mean, the next scene too is basically just Lord Slug's henchmen murdering the humans who have shown up to kind of see what's going on. So I mean, Dragon Ball in its morality sometimes can be very black and white, and we're getting very much that like black and white divide here of like, okay, these are the bad guys, they're doing bad shit, you're showing us that, you're making the audience see and believe that very quickly so we understand what the primary conflict is going forward.
Yeah, and uh, I we had some scenes of some of our heroes arriving at where the ship had touched down, and amongst them was Gohan, who decides to jump into action and begin smacking down guards. Even Chi Chi, who was there, jumps on scene and smacks down a couple of them for, well, like 2 seconds anyway, before she gets knocked out. And it's at around this point that Lord Slug actually decides to exit the ship. And this is where he comes across Gohan's hat that he had dropped during the fight and plucks the 4-star Dragon Ball from the top of it. It looks like he's aware of what the Dragon Balls are. So now we're getting some clues as to who this guy is.
I do have to say I probably noticed it earlier too, but it was about this point where some of the old dub dialogue started to get a little bit just kind of comical in some scenes. There's like one shot where Chi-Chi jumps into the combat and then gets like punched in the stomach and knocked out, and Gohan's just like, "Hey!" It's just like feels really awkward.
Yeah, there's another one I want to bring up that's not far from here too.
Excellent.
But Slug asks, hey, where are the rest of the Dragon Balls at? And Bulma more or less lets slip that you would need a radar to find all of them. And Slug decides to pull the old mind read trick on her to get the full scoop. So at this point, we're getting if you don't know he's a Namekian by this point, then I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, the reveal comes like, God, 40 minutes into the movie. Like, I wanted to ask about that too. Like, do you feel like does it feel like a legit reveal when it comes up?
Well, I mean, my thing is when I see a green guy and I'm like, that guy might be a Namekian. That's my first thing I think, right? Like, what else would I think he could be? So when you're trying to hide this, you got to do a better job than, I don't know, covering his ears, basically.
Yeah, his ears and his antenna are like the things that are covered up, but otherwise it's like, I'm pretty sure the only other green humanoids that we see are Namekians. Maybe there's a few very minor exceptions, but yeah, it's I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be obvious. It's funny that they treat it like a reveal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it makes me laugh, but yeah, he gets a full scoop in the Dragon Balls. He snatches the Dragon Radar from Bulma's like satchel, and he sends his henchmen out to go gather the rest. He gives them 1 hour to collect the rest of the Dragon Balls, which is That's great. I want to trivialize getting the Dragon Balls as much as possible, so I'm glad we're doing that. Also, Gohan gets knocked out at some point during all of this. It's kind of all piecemeal put together. Doesn't really matter. Either way, Slug collects all the Dragon Balls and summons Shenron.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you're cracking jokes about it because it's wild to me how quickly they've trivialized gathering the Dragon Balls, and I understand this is a less than an hour long movie, so you got to make things happen quickly. There is also, this is, I mentioned this before we started recording, but this is one of the scenes where it just transitions from this scene of them like our heroes, so Gohan and the others, kind of engaging the bad guys. Chi-Chi gets knocked out, Gohan gets knocked out, Slug reads Bulma's mind, takes her Dragon Radar, and then starts gathering the Dragon Balls. But like, what happens to our good guys here? They just are left like knocked out. They're not like taken prisoner. They're not killed like the other humans. Like, it's just weird because shortly after this scene, we see Balma and Chi-Chi at home drinking coffee.
Yeah, they just like go inside and leave them out there. Everyone went home. I was also very confused about that, where there was no transition. Also, we do spend the time having like a weird little montage of the henchmen snagging the Dragon Balls, which we didn't need that. They have the radar. You could have just said they went out and, got the Dragon Balls. I would have believed you, and then given us some closure on what happened with Gohan and Chi-Chi and Balma.
Yeah, the pieces of this movie just feel very weirdly stitched together. Like,
and it messes with the pacing too, because like we went from in the middle of like a fight to having a weird Dragon Ball scene to collecting the Dragon Balls to everyone being at their houses. I don't really know what pieces they were working with, but they ended up with this, and there had to have been a better way to stitch this stuff together.
Yeah, to add to that, the fact that while this is all happening, presumably Goku and Krillin are just knocked the fuck out. It's funny that nobody went to go like check on Goku and Krillin, I guess. I guess Yajirobe does here shortly and gives them sensu beans, but like their family didn't go check on, like Goku's family didn't check on them, like Balma didn't check on them. It's just, I don't know. It's just very weird.
I know our coverage of the events happening is kind of all over the place, but the events are kind of all over the place. So this is all kind of a mess of stuff stuck together, but to just kind of go through it again really quickly. Lord Slug walks out of his ship, gets the Dragon Ball Dragon Radar from Bulma, sends his henchmen out. They collect the Dragon Balls. Gohan gets knocked out. Bulma also gets knocked out from the mind read technique or something, is kind of what it seemed like. And Chi-Chi was knocked out. And then all of them end up back at home. Like, it just jumps.
I guess Yajirobe does go and give like Goku and Krillin sensu beans, which again is like a weird, like you said, just these guys are super strong. Why did they get knocked out to the point of needing a sensu bean? I don't know.
Also, how did Yajirobe get to where they were at? There's a lot of questions here. And while this is happening, Slug summons Shenron and wishes for eternal youth, and then turns on a dark cloud machine to make the world cold.
Yeah, which makes it so that his alien henchmen can breathe the air now.
How do you feel about that?
It's like a weird, I have no idea what sort of science is happening here, but I don't know. It just feels,
it felt weird to me because they even show scenes of like deer and animals dying and stuff like that. And so like the environment's breathable for them, but not for the deer and stuff. But our main heroes are fine in it. So I don't know what's going on. I'm very confused.
Yeah, it's just a strange combination of things. It doesn't make any sense to me. To add to my confusion, Gohan is back at the spaceship with Oolong of all people.
Oolong and Icarus, they snuck out of the house and made their way back, and they're spying on Lord Slug's henchmen doing something. They're like digging a hole. It doesn't matter though, because nothing ever comes of this hole. I don't know why they even show this scene.
I think it's just so Piccolo can come and save him, which Piccolo does come and save Gohan.
God, gosh. Yeah, it's such story salad. But either way, I think the vast majority of the story salad's kind of over because we're getting into the fighting now, right? Gohan's trying to sneak around, but he ends up running into the guards and is attacked by them. He kicks a little bit of ass. There's like some key blasts they fire back and forth at each other, but he's overwhelmed by numbers eventually and kind of knocked to the ground, nearly defeated. Piccolo makes his timely arrival, kicks a little bit of ass, saves Gohan's life, has like a cool shot of him standing in front of a bright light, and then he breaks the light. It's all, it's very well done.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Did we, in our mess of order of operations here, did we cover that Lord Slug is young again? Did we do that?
Yeah, I think I said it, but yeah, he summoned Shenron. No, I said he summoned Shenron. He wished for eternal youth because he's old. So he's not old anymore. And you see like his kind of dark, almost yellowy skin turn into a nice, like bright, vibrant green. So he's a normal Namekian.
Yes. Yeah, which, well, they treat it as if we don't know that he is a Namekian yet. But that's going to change here soon with Piccolo on the scene. He basically now, Piccolo confronts the primary henchmen, like the all the ones with the funny abilities. The only one that I know their name here is Metamacha because he has such a wild and weird name. I don't know the other two's names, but there's a big orange guy with wings, and then there's the handsome blue-skinned guy with long white hair. Metamacha's a little, I don't know, green gremlin looking guy.
Yeah, he's actually Metamacha's. I like his character design. He's really weird and alien bizarre. I thought he was actually kind of a cool like creature to exist in the Dragon Ball universe.
Yeah, I agree. He's got some at least mildly interesting powers here too, as we find out pretty quick. But I think the fight starts with our big orange guy attacking Piccolo, and this has at least a couple of fun sequences. Admittedly, many of the movies have sequences with Piccolo showing up before Goku shows up, and Piccolo gets to be kind of like the badass against the henchmen effectively. And this is exactly one of those sequences as they kind of go like fighting through a building, and Piccolo is just whooping this dude's ass, like breaks his hand and his arm at one point, and then fully like just key blasts him through the face after knocking him through the building.
See, I thought the scene was very well done for Piccolo because it's not just he breaks his arm. He actually takes his arm and he shows him like hold it between his elbow and knee and shatter it like that. Which I thought was brutal. And then when his orange opponent's like on the ground, kind of like begging for his life and talking about how Lord Slug's more powerful than him anyway, he like reaches out a hand to try and get Piccolo to like agree and show him mercy. And Piccolo reaches out like he's gonna shake his hand and then reaches past it and puts his palm on his head and then blasts his head off. It's kind of brutal. Like, I only bring this up because I actually think that these are a couple of the better scenes in this movie, so I'm going to talk about them.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I actually really like this sequence with Piccolo. Then we kind of cut back to Gohan now fighting Metamacha, with Metamacha just like blasting Gohan with a bunch of ki blasts. But the cool ability that he shows off is his skin starts to like bubble up, and he creates these mini Metamachas that now like fly at Gohan and grab him, and it almost looks like they're kind of like draining his energy. So these things are like, I don't know, it's a creepy, unique ability that is just kind of like a fun twist on ki abilities, I guess.
And even the way they animate it, like they show like his body kind of dysmorphing and like it collecting in certain areas and these little Machin creatures like falling off of him. It's kind of grotesque in a way. And keep in mind that this is like this creepy little green dude who half the time walks around on all fours, whose eyes are constantly looking in different directions like a chameleon, almost like rattling around in there. He's a really, really strange little guy.
Yeah, I like him a lot. This kind of turns into Gohan, beat up, and Metamacha's about ready to finish him off. And so Piccolo, as per usual for best dad Piccolo has to come in and save Gohan's hide, which turns into him getting blasted to shit by both Metamacha and the pretty henchman.
This for me was kind of a little bit of a facepalm moment where it's like, you guys are really pulling this trope again. I think you do this in every single movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
So Piccolo does the big sacrifice. He's not dead. He just can't fight, and Gohan can't fight either. But thankfully, Goku and Krillin arrive just in time, just like how Piccolo had arrived just in time to save our battered heroes. And did you laugh a little bit when Goku arrives and he picks up like Gohan? The first thing Gohan says is, "Dad, I love you." Just like
100%. Yes. Like the line is so weirdly inserted.
Yeah,
like,
just like, "Dad, I love you." He's like, "I love you too, son." Okay, yeah. Was something happening, or do you guys need to just get that off your chest?
It's like, why of all things is that the line that you say in that moment?
Yeah, that felt very out of place. When you mentioned that some of the dubisms were in here or a little bit off, I was like, that's the one. That's the one I think of, especially because Piccolo had just like sacrificed himself to keep Gohan safe. And then Gohan's like, "Yeah, I love you, Dad."
I didn't even look at it that way, but yeah, that makes it even more funny.
Oh, it's so funny. Anyway,
I did want to.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to point out too, one of the things that I like visually in this is when Piccolo gets blasted, his usual like weighted armor or his shoulder pads, you can see the inside of them, which is, I think this is one of the few times that they show like the interior of it. I just think it's a cool detail that we don't ever get to see very often.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. So maybe we can dissect it and actually create those IRL.
Hell yeah, that would be cool. Cool for cosplay.
But Goku demands that they leave the planet. And the bad aliens, not to be confused with our good aliens, obviously refuse. And Goku begins just smacking them around.
I'm not going to lie, like, this is, again, an overused trope, but I never get tired of watching Goku just style on fools. Like, this is fucking slick. As Metamacha, I think one of the first things that Metamacha does is, like, I think he sends his little guys after Goku. Actually, no, I think the first one is he just basically, like, leaps on him, and Goku just, like, punches him up in the gut.
Yeah, I mean, when Goku's styling like this, it's done well. It's when Goku is actually serious, right? It's when you see him show up against the Ginyu Force, or when he shows up against the Saiyans in the Saiyan Saga. It's that Goku is obviously better, but he's taking the situation seriously. He's dialed in. It's such a cool look on him.
Oh yeah, yeah, I like it a lot. He does get like the little Metamacha gremlins on him, and he just basically like powers up, like shooting his aura out around him to blast the creatures off or to destroy them. The pretty guy has like a stretchy arm thing like Piccolo, and he like tries to grab Goku by the ankles and blast him with a mouth beam. To which Goku blasts his own beam, which like shoots both of the beams back into the guy's mouth and like just dispatches him, like takes out the henchman, like the strong henchman, within seconds. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, there was a moment where I thought Goku was just going to blow that guy's head off. So he may or may not be dead. They left it kind of ambiguous.
Yeah, for sure. He does also get like a, again, maybe overused, but cool every time, moment where he catches Metamacha in the air with one hand and just like plops his body off onto the ground. It's like a very, it's a very like break Nappa's back moment, like just catching discarded.
Well, this fight is extraordinarily short, even though it's good. And the henchmen are obviously no match for Goku. So all the remaining little villains begin piling back into the ship, which explodes outwards as Slug blasts his way through all of them, revealing himself to our heroes, which I like this entrance. This is a cool way for a villain to arrive unseen.
It is cool. I want to hear your take on what happens next, because Krillin goes into this saying, "Don't worry, Goku, I got this one," leaps at Lord Slug and basically gets bitch slapped and says, "He's all yours, Goku!"
You know, I just I just laughed. I don't know what else I can do. It's Krillin's kind of the butt of the jokes in these movies at this point. Um, I want him to get a scene. Like I just want him to do something cool. He doesn't get that this movie. That's fine, but at least he's not the punching bag for too long. So I'll take a little loss as a win.
I think he does. I believe it's two things in this movie. He shoots a Kamehameha at the planet, which he gets knocked out for, and then he tries to take a swing at Lord Slug, to which he gets knocked out for.
Yeah, seems about right. So that's my boy. That's Toriyama. Do me proud.
Admittedly, I don't think Toriyama had a whole lot to do with these movies. I think this is Toei Animation just like shitting on Krillin for some reason.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I do think we talked about that. So my boy doesn't get a scene, but it's fine. I just moved on. It's kind of what I expect at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. This does kind of move into the meat and potatoes of the movie, though, with Goku now fighting our big bad in Lord Slug. This first exchange is pretty brief. Goku gets like slugged in the
Hey.
face. He basically is just getting like knocked around as they're exchanging blows. One of the quick scenes that happens here is Goku getting knocked into the ground, and then Slug grabs him by the ankle and then throws him through a truck, which is just visually cool.
Yeah, and I mean it's letting us know that Slug is powerful. Like he's a strong, brutish dude. And even after this, like Goku gets basically thrown through a truck and crashes into a building and pulls himself out of all this debris, flies forward and delivers a punch straight to Slug's cheek that he happily catches and then proceeds to continue to beat the snot out of Goku. So these two, they're giving us the idea that they're not anywhere near the same playing field.
Yes. And I mean, this is a big deal given that Goku
Is about to
beat
fight
up-
Frieza.
Yes. So apparently by the timeline, which we'll have to talk about that by the time this movie is over. But Goku beat up the henchman without any issue, and now Goku's basically being treated like one of those henchmen. As Goku's getting like smacked around like this, one of the things that I like about this is that a lot of this is happening in the city. So Goku's like getting thrown through trucks and buildings. There's one point where his head gets like stuck through a wall, and then Slug grabs him back and pulls him through the wall. At one point, Slug grabs Goku by the shirt and then punches his shirt right off.
Oh, now you done it.
Which it basically is the triggering effect for Goku to transform.
Oh gosh. Okay, so in my notes here, I have Goku steps to his feet panting, and when Slug goes to deliver another punch, Goku catches it in his palm, steam pouring off his body as he's surrounded with a golden aura, his eyes turning pure white as his pupils disappear. His hair isn't golden though, so this is like Super Saiyan 0.5? I don't think this is a full Super Saiyan transformation, right?
So this is interesting and something I want to talk about briefly, because I think the fan base has referred to this, and maybe it's official in one of the books about Dragon Ball. They call it false Super Saiyan. However, the title for this movie, and I'm 99% sure that this movie came out before Goku turned Super Saiyan against Frieza. The title for this movie in Japanese is Son Goku, the Super Saiyan.
Oh no. Oh jeez. That if I don't want to believe that, because that kind of ruins a lot if this is how they decided to handle things.
So we'll have to talk about this more like as in more of the movies, because this happened with Fusion as well. So the big thing here is that this might have even been before. I could be wrong about this detail, but this might have even been before Goku went Super Saiyan in the manga. I'm not positive about that. It might have been after, but I'm pretty positive it was before Goku went Super Saiyan in the anime, which Toei Animation is making. So it's very strange for Toei Animation to be like, hey, we're going to do this big transformation reveal in our movie instead of when it's supposed to happen in the anime where it has actual narrative significance. And I think because Akira Toriyama hadn't given them the full specs or details of what he wanted Super Saiyan to look like, he basically gave them some like rough notes. Like his hair is spiked up, he has this aura, but he never gave them color notes. So they didn't change his hair to like the gold of Super Saiyan, thank God. Um, and then they kind of like whited out the eyes instead of giving him the kind of green or teal eyes of Super Saiyan. So it's fortunate that they didn't have the full details of Super Saiyan. Otherwise, this would have basically just ruined Super Saiyan in the actual anime.
So, man, and I could probably dig into this thing real deep, but I'm gonna defend it a little bit because I don't mind this being like a Super Saiyan point five, like alluding to the Super Saiyan transformation, because we had stuff like that in Super, where we got kind of previews of the God Key energy and stuff like that, and previews of Ultra Instinct. So I don't mind there being a flash of a potential transformation or potential power before we actually get it, because this transformation, if you want to call it that, seems like it's Goku's not completely in control. At least it's what it seemed like to me. And there are details that are different, right? So, like you mentioned, the hair, his pupils not being visible. And as we'll find out, it seems like it's not something that Goku can readily control the state of. So he can't like freely go in and out of it. So there's a lot of kind of like gotchas to this that do make it somewhat different to Super Saiyan, but with that golden aura is an obvious reference to it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um,
I'm not
oh,
saying I like it. I'm just trying to, in defense of it, here's my Iron Man argument.
I think that your argument is good, given the fact that this isn't animated. It's not drawn to look like the actual Super Saiyan form. Um, I was just checking to see if I was right about the manga detail. At least according to Google AI, this movie came out in on March 9th of 1991, and Goku's Super Saiyan transformation was revealed in the manga on March 19th of 1991.
Oh my gosh.
So it came
Wow.
out like right before it was actually shown in the manga, which is wild.
That's bizarre. I mean, talk about a release just like goof. Like I don't know how else to say it, because these movies don't, I mean, they're not really canon, right? Like they don't actually matter. So why would you step on the toes of the thing that does actually matter? It's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. It was a very strange choice to try and like jump the shark and beat Akira Toriyama to the punch in revealing Super Saiyan. Um, I don't know though. I feel like Japan, it feels they definitely feel differently about like spoilers than American culture does. So I don't know. Maybe it's a cultural thing.
It could
I'm just
be.
glad that it doesn't look like Super Saiyan.
I don't know. Like I'm so extreme about spoilers now, where if there's a movie coming out that I'm remotely excited for, I don't want to hear anyone's opinion about it. I don't want to hear anyone's reviews, ratings, nothing. I want to go in as blind as possible to form as pure of a personal opinion as I can, because sometimes listening to other people's opinions on movies can kind of ruin them, right? Like if someone points out that there's X flaw in a movie, well, maybe I wouldn't have noticed that in my watch, but now I'm looking for it. It's going to stand out so much more. So I don't like spoilers. The idea of Super Saiyan being spoiled right before I read about would drive me up a wall. There's no way I would be able to accept that.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly the same way. I go into things blind just to have a to me a you said it perfectly, a more pure experience. Um but I mean it's how they handled it. I think that it was a poor way to handle it. It's funny to look back on it now though. But this kind of results in Goku in his false Super Saiyan form kicking the snot out of Lord Slug, at least for a moment here. Um this is kind of where, and we even get King Kai saying like, "Oh, it must be the legend. He must be a Super Saiyan." Um, But this is kind of where we get the reveal now of Lord Slug being a Namekian, because Goku basically, if you want to say, breaks his arm. He makes his arm unusable, and Lord Slug is like, well, that was a good arm, but I need a new one. Rips it off and then grows one back. And he takes off his helmet to reveal the pointed ears and antennae of a Namekian.
Yeah, and all these events kind of shock Goku out of his false Super Saiyan form, right? You see his hair kind of calm back down, the aura dissipates, and King Kai decides to chime in and tell Goku that he's like an ancient form of Namekian who travels the universe wrecking other people's homes. Did did you buy this story? Did this make any sense to you?
It sounds. This feels like, I don't know, fan fiction. Like, it just feels very. Like, it comes out of nowhere. Like, he's a super Namekian. Like, okay, sure. Why?
Yeah, and mind you, while Goku's being filled in on the story, Lord Slug is just like growing huge, and so now we've got giant form Slug. I almost said Piccolo. We've got giant form Lord Slug stomping through the city, just beating the snot out of Goku.
I will say some of this I do like. I don't care one way or the other about the Super Namekian thing. It feels just thrown in there. But I like Lord Slug going big like this. This is kind of a throwback to, like you said, Piccolo in the Tenkaichi Budokai at the end of the original Dragon Ball. So we're using pre-established lore and techniques. So I like that. And then we also get to see, I think one of the first attacks that Lord Slug uses is the stretchy arms, which we're gonna have to talk about stretchy arms later when Piccolo's involved here. But this is kind of a cool fight. Again, I like the city backdrop here because it's this massive monster, kind of like destroying cities, and Goku's using the buildings to kind of hide. I think there's one sequence that I like a lot of Lord's like trying to like smash through a building, and it's actually where Goku can't see where Lord Slug is at. So his arm comes smashing through a building and then smashes through another building on the other side, and then his head like bursts through the wall. And Goku starts to charge a Kamehameha, and Lord Slug just blasts him with a mouth beam. I'm like, oh, that was a fun sequence.
Yeah, and like on top of that sequence, like Goku gets like bashed down into like the subway and has to like flee through the ruined dark remains of the subway underneath as these hands are like coming through like the ceiling trying to like reach him and grab him and smash him. It is a really fun scene, and this is something that we lose a lot once characters start flying. The environment stops mattering. But I mean, I think, yeah, Goku can fly right now, but everything's taking place planted on the ground, and we're really getting to feel that environment. I love it when they're able to integrate this.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much agree. I think that's a complaint that you and I both have talked about a bit. Um, but yeah, this keeps things, even though Goku can fly, this fight is kept fairly well grounded. I think at this point we kind of have most of the city destroyed around them.
Actually,
Uh,
there's a scene here that I think translates to Goku fighting Big Piccolo almost
ooh.
directly, where Goku gets hit by that blast by Slug, and when the dust settles, there's like a little piece of the road that he's still standing on that's like still intact. And there's almost an identical scene where Goku's blasted against Piccolo, and there's a little piece of the ring that he's still standing on, so that way he's not ringed out. So there's definitely some similarities between these two battles.
That's a really, I didn't actually notice that visual reference, but you're absolutely right. That's a really good visual callback. I like subtle callbacks like that. I think that that's a good way to do a callback. Um, this kind of turns into like there's a cool shot of like Lord Slug using the stretchy arm to try to grab Goku, and Goku runs up the arm and blasts him in the face.
That scene looks
Uh,
so cool, by the way. The way Goku's like running up there, you see him like he's almost like going for like a slam dunk or something. The way he leaps off of the arm and just like bashes him in the face, like one handed slamming the key blast down into him.
It's really cool. The impact looks great. Like, I really like the way that one's animated too. And it kind of results in Goku getting like suspended in air, where Lord Slug manages to get a hand on him. And this kind of almost harkens back to Goku fighting Vegeta in his Ozaru form, because now Lord Slug is basically just trying to squeeze the life out of Goku and turn him into a tube of toothpaste. Um, to which this part was interesting, where Piccolo shows up on top of Lord Slug's head, grabs his antennae, and says, "If your antennae are anything like mine, this hurts like a son of a bitch." I don't remember hearing this ever before. Do you?
I don't remember hearing this ever either. And also, it doesn't seem like Lord Slug cares that much about it because he just
Yeah.
kind of drops Goku and grabs him anyway. So I don't know. It just seems like some made up stuff. Actually, this whole scene is weird to me. All right, let's keep going forward with it because Piccolo is now being squeezed. He's getting the squeeze, right? And he decides to rip off his ears and then ask Gohan to whistle. What the hell is going on? This is the weirdest chain of events.
Like, there's a part of me that likes, because as we talked about earlier, there's a sequence at the very beginning of this movie where Gohan is whistling and Piccolo gets mad at him, and it's not really explained why to us as the audience. So this is supposed to be the payoff for that. So I like that they at least gave us something, early on in the movie that we're hearkening back to. That feels like it should be good, like setup and payoff, but it feels very weird.
Yeah, like, are you saying? I don't know. It raises a lot of questions about Piccolo's super hearing and what does and doesn't bother him. Why did this whistling in particular bother him? And on top of that, I think King Kai even kind of explains that because he's like in his big form and he's an ancient Namekian, his hearing was like hypersensitive, even compared to Piccolo's sensitive hearing. And it's just like, I don't know. This feels really kind of ham-fisted in.
I also, and maybe I'm getting too deep into the details here, but I'm not a biologist or scientist or anything. But would ripping your ears off even make a difference in how well you hear something? Like, you still have everything on the inside. I don't know how that works. It just seems weird to me.
I mean, it'd probably make a little difference, right? Like, I view your ears as almost like funnels for sound. That's my logic. I don't know if it actually works that way, but I don't know, man. Either way, the plan is Gohan whistles, Lord Slug gets a headache and leans over, and Piccolo touches Goku and gives him his energy. So then, yay, the plan worked.
I gotta point this out though, because while they did a great job with Lord Slug and harkening back to abilities for Namekians, we've got, the giant Namekian, we've got the stretchy arms. Why the fuck doesn't Piccolo use his stretchy arms to grab Goku?
Just use the stretchy arm. Why? Like, he's like trying to lean in and touch him. Like, I can't reach. It's like, you are that. Like, you've also used that technique before. Just stretch your arm over to him. Why do you have to lean in?
It's genuinely like a 60-second scene of Piccolo just being like, if I were just a little closer.
You have stretchy arms.
Oh. The number of times they forget about Piccolo's stretchy arms is infuriating in Dragon Ball.
I mean, I think during the superhero movie, I think he even mentions that he forgot about it, like being able to go big or whatever or something, right?
The big one, yeah, his giant form. He says that he forgot about it. So the writers kind of like put that on the character, which is a very funny thing to do for a character who's supposed to be like the smart character of the group.
It depends on the movie or series you're in, right? Like, sometimes Goku's a savant and sometimes Goku's in Dragon Ball Super.
That is very true.
Either way, this awkward scene plays out too long. And it shouldn't even have been a scene. But Goku's back on his feet, right? He's got the Piccolo juice coursing through his veins, and he kicks up the Kaioken at this point, which I've been wondering, why didn't he use this earlier?
Yes, that is a great question. When you're getting your ass kicked, even if your technique is something that can hurt your body, if it's also a technique that will multiply your power, feels like that's something you should be using.
Well, it also feels really out of order to me, right? Like, shouldn't the Proto Super Saiyan thing be the big reveal at the end? Because we got that reveal early, and then we just went back to an old technique for the finishing moment.
Yeah, like presumably the false Super Saiyan is more powerful than Kaioken. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's like, okay, well, so Kaioken is your finisher here. I mean, he basically, to tie back to King Piccolo once more, he fucking flies through and puts a hole right through Lord Slug's stomach here, which is, I don't know, it's cool. Maybe it's a little bit too on the nose as far as like a callback for my liking, but it's fine.
Okay. Let me go ahead and wrap this up because we're basically at the end here, so that way I can kind of give my overview. Goku punches straight through Lord Slug, who falls to the ground. Goku believes the fight is over, so he flies up to deal with the clouds causing the planet to be cold and, bad. But Lord Slug reaches out a stretchy arm on his way up and kind of hitches a ride up to the clouds with him. Goku goes above the clouds and captures some sun in what I can only describe as a spirit bomb, and then throws it into Lord Slug, who crashes into the cloud machine, and they blow up. And the day is saved. Piccolo can grow his ears back. That's a thing he can do. So cool. And we get a outro with some classic American rock and Goku driving a car.
Yeah, man.
And by the way, this happens very quickly. This is not like I'm glossing over a bunch of stuff. It's like, no, they gloss over it too. I'm just giving you the notes of the notes.
I was just about to say that the speed at which they wrap up this movie feels like they were just like they had no more time in their budget and they were like, all right, guess we got to be done.
And by the way, like they have scenes of like the creatures of the planet dying and like the mass destruction that the near miss of the planets colliding caused. And I can only imagine how many people and animals died and how many buildings were just like how horrible the earth must be right now. And they show nothing to remedy that. Like it's just like the bad guys defeated and we're going to go drive cars for fun.
To say, like, you're absolutely right. Add to that the fact that normally the way that they resolve these problems, like when the earth has a bunch of destruction, the way they fix that is with the Dragon Balls. Lord Slug just used the Dragon Balls to wish for eternal youth. So the Dragon Balls are off limits for a year. So there's just some weird details in this movie.
I honestly think they got to the end and they were just like, this movie isn't canon. Don't worry about it. Like they just wrote it off and moved on with their lives.
I mean, and we had to at least touch on that. You mentioned it as a joke at the beginning. There's no way it could be canon, right? Like our characters are at a point like Gohan is speaking with Piccolo as if, they've already gone through their training and whatnot. Piccolo's already kind of like a good guy. So this has to be after the Saiyan arc. Gohan knows the Masenko. So again, has to be after the Saiyan arc. But there's no time after the Saiyan arc that this could happen unless it was after the Frieza arc, which Goku would already be a Super Saiyan among a number of other oddities. And this says specifically that this is placed before Goku fights Frieza, which is just hilarious. The idea of like, well, yeah, Goku went to Namek. He grabbed his friends. They came back to Earth. They hung out for a while. They fought Lord Slug, and then they went back to Namek to go fight Frieza.
Yeah, this one's a real head scratcher. The other ones were actually a little bit of a head scratcher to try and place, but this one cannot exist. There's no way. There's no window for this to be put in. So this doesn't fit in the timeline, but like I asked at the beginning, what are timelines really? And I mean, yeah, I don't think there's any justifying this movie as canon. So I'm not going to judge it on any of those facets, right? Like this is just a movie for watching on the screen, having a good time. Turn off your brain and enjoy some fighting. So with that said, what do you think? Was this movie entertaining to you? Did you feel like you had a good time watching this movie?
It's such a funny one because we touched on this before we started recording, in that I don't think that I was ever bored. Like it's a short movie, but A lot of my enjoyment from this movie comes from the almost like laughing at some of the decisions that they made in making this movie and writing this movie. Like it's a lot of it is just comical and it's not intended to be comical.
Yeah, and the rock music just had me cracking up, and uh, for me, this is probably my two big things with this movie. One is that it at least kept trying to like move the plot along. Like I never felt like I got bored. Even if I disagreed with what was happening on the screen or didn't understand it, they at least kept trying to move the plot along. So as far as keeping me engaged and at least entertained, I think it did that. Like I didn't get bored with this movie, which I can't even say the same about the other ones we watched. There were points where, hey, you guys have 40 minutes to like make a movie, make it count. They would still find ways to have downtime and be boring or put in like a weird montage of like Gohan and Icarus singing with like things flying by them, whatever that was. This one didn't have any of those moments, but this one also, the fighting felt all over the place where everything was kind of a measuring stick moment where someone was always much more powerful than someone else. We never actually got an evenish footing fight really in this entire movie.
And that's a really good point. I was trying to figure out how to even describe the fighting in this movie because you're right. It almost always feels like a one-sided beatdown. And there are a couple of like this one little moment in the fights that I'm like, "Oh, that was cool. That was visually interesting." But the fighting itself is not stand out in any way.
I
It's
almost feel
like
like I could say that about honestly most of these movies we've watched so far is that I feel like they're not given like a movie level budget. They're given like an episode or two of Dragon Ball Z series budget and they're turning that into a movie because nothing really feels like premium. And I know it's not because of when it was made because there's other instances like original Dragon Ball where the animation and choreography is better than what I've seen in these movies. So I don't know if maybe they were trying to fill time slots or if they were on a rushed schedule or the budget was low or something. But I just, these few movies we've watched so far, I never really get that big stand out. Like you guys really put your A game on really anything that's in any of them.
that's fair. I would say, and it's been a little while since we watched the first two, but the first two have at least a few sequences of really good choreography because they're still kind of like in that between Dragon Ball and Z era where the fighting is still like grounded and it still feels like it's in more like a martial art than it is just like who's got the bigger power level or the bigger ki blast. But the Tree of Might has worse fighting than I remembered it having. This one, out of all the ones that we've watched, I think this one has the worst fighting so far.
I
It
think
just
so. It has probably the most uninteresting fighting too. But like the environmental scenes are pretty cool, and so I can at least appreciate that. I'm not saying there wasn't good ideas in this movie, but it just feels like this feels like one of the ones where the execution on it was the sloppiest, I guess is the way I would put it.
I would agree, and it's very funny watching these like basically watching the dubbed version of these that I watched as a kid and watching them now because my opinions on them have changed drastically because I remember liking this one a lot as a kid. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's one of the better Dragon Ball Z movies." But watching it now, I'm like, "Oh, this movie's a mess."
Yeah, it's I don't know, like I don't there's nothing I hate about this movie. It's not like I walked away from it being like, "Man, I dislike that." It's just there's also not really much that I loved about it either. It just felt so I don't know. I think the word I used earlier was hollow. This feels like it's Dragon Ball for the sake of being Dragon Ball. And there's not a whole lot for me to hang my hat. Is it entertaining? Yeah. Like I was honestly entertained the majority of this movie. So it at least did its job, but I wasn't really blown away by anything. And I mean, one of the questions I usually ask myself after watching a movie or something is, would I watch this again? And this is one of those ones where I think I honestly might just for the laughs and the giggles and stuff like that, because there was actually effort put into it and I wasn't bored. but this isn't very high up on my list of rewatches.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. But yeah, and again, that's like this movie is entertaining to me, but it's not from the intended entertainment. It's just because there are things that are like they're funny. Like the dubbing sometimes is funny. I mean, we're talking primarily about the one that we watched, which is the like 90s Funimation dub. So it has funny music choices with like the rock music and stuff. Some of the dub lines are just comical. The fact that I mean, and then moving back to like the Japanese production side of things, like we talked about with this being what should have been or what they were intending to be the reveal of Super Saiyan is like a crazy business and media decision period. um yeah, it's just there's so many things about this, and then also add to the fact that this is almost whole hog a ripoff of the King Piccolo storyline. Like old Namekian wants to get the Dragon Balls to return to his youth. Uh, I mean, Goku fights him and punches a hole through his body. Like there's not a lot of original storytelling in this one either.
Yeah, and we don't really once again we don't really get much from our side heroes either. It's mostly the Goku show with a little dash of Gohan and Piccolo. Krillin, my boy, gets mistreated, but I'm used to that. I I don't know. Like I said, I don't actually hate this movie. Like I don't have a lot to like really put my finger on as far as what I dislike. It's just the pacing is weird. The way they stitch together scenes is weird. There's not complete resolution to everything that's happened. It's just a little messy. And I mean, I think just kind of piece things together a little bit better and explain a couple things, and then maybe I feel like a lot differently about this. Like I can forgive not having an animation budget, but I can't really get past the fact that I don't know what the hell's happening sometimes.
Yeah, the other thing that I was just thinking too is that you mentioned the animation. Like I think for me, it's a little bit more the fight choreography is the part that I don't necessarily care for, and it's certainly not the worst that I've seen. It's got some fun stuff in it, but the actual animation though looks, to be frank, it looks better than some things that we see in modern Dragon Ball. Like it almost always it's pretty consistent, and it almost always looks better than like I don't know, some of the stuff you see at the beginning of Super. That's for sure.
I guess when you compare it to some of the low points of Super, yeah, it is better than that. I it's weird though because it's the animation I will at least say is fairly consistent through it. There aren't any points where I notice it being noticeably bad, but at the same time, there also aren't very many points where I notice it being noticeably good either. Like it feels very
That's
just
true.
mediocre. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but maybe like kind of what you're saying, put some better choreography in there, and maybe I'm whistling a different tune.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think that there's part of me too that like I was really even looking at the animation kind of like zoomed in. You can see it's like it looks more like hand drawn animation. You can see kind of like the sketchy details of it, and I think there almost certainly is in me a nostalgia for that type of art and animation, and we just don't get to see stuff like that anymore. So I think there's part of me that just really loves the way that Dragon Ball was animated in the 80s and 90s and likes the look and feel of it.
I do like that. And it almost adds like this little bit of grittiness to it that sometimes I feel like is missing from modern Dragon Ball.
Yes, 100%. I very much agree. So yeah, it's I don't know. This is just a weird movie. It can be it's a fun watch. I just feel like I'm enjoying it for reasons that aren't intended. So it's like it's almost hard for me to place it or rate it or anything like that.
Yeah, and there aren't any moments in here that draw any emotional like strings for me, right? Like the closest we get is the
No.
another Piccolo sacrifice. So it's I'm not emotionally invested in this movie. This feels like the most like 5 out of 10 experience I've had in a long time.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing with the false Super Saiyan transformation is that if I mean you mentioned the placement where it really should have been at the end, but even where it's at in here, there's no emotional weight or tie-in. Like, you could maybe argue that Goku's like, oh, I'm losing, and if I lose, my planet's going to be destroyed, my family's going to be destroyed. But there's not really much focus on that, and so it just feels like he's just out of nowhere is like, nope, I decided I don't want to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, he just randomly decides that he's powerful and he's going to start smacking Slug around and like, oh, okay. I guess my thing is this is what really like makes me feel weird about some of this stuff is the history of Trunks is like a micro movie kind of like these ones, and it is so phenomenally good. So I
Yeah.
know they're capable of making a good product in this format, but for some reason we get so few of them, and it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, I know you guys can do a better job than this.
Yes, that's true. I still really I like the first two movies quite a bit. The World's Strongest. The World's Strongest to me is maybe one of the best movies because I like the premise. It's just like it's a unique, well, relatively unique premise for Dragon Ball anyway. It's not rehashing another plot line really. It has some fun and interesting fighting in it. But yeah, this one's rehashing an old plot line. It doesn't feel like it feels like it's Frankenstein together. Like it just doesn't move fluidly from scene to scene to scene. And there's not really any standout like fight choreography. The animation is consistent but not incredible. The music is funny.
It takes you back.
Yeah. I don't know. It's and maybe I might also be judging it more harshly because I had such like high nostalgia for this movie where I was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a good one." And then I was like, I think past me has ruined this movie for present me.
Well, you don't like good old Lord Slug sitting there with his his jar of pills or whatever the hell he's like thumbing around.
That's another one of those moments where I'm like, this is just funny. I don't know. Like, are these like pain pills? What is he just chewing on?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but it kind of made me laugh. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't think I have much more to say. This was a film we watched. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. It's a Dragon Ball mini movie. It kind of does some things right and does some things wrong. So I put it kind of right in the middle of the pack of my Dragon Ball experiences.
Yeah, I'd say it's. I will say there are both better and worse movies to come in our movie watching run.
Oh boy. All right. I mean, it tries to be fun. That's all I ask is try to be a fun, entertaining movie. It tried. I think it kind of missed, but you know what? The effort was there and it was a good faith effort. So I'm definitely a little bit more forgiving to a movie like this.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. For 50 minutes of your time, like you'll be largely entertained, even if you're just kind of like laughing at some of the goofy shit that happens in this movie. But
Absolutely. It's a good time.
yeah. But I think that's going to be it for this episode of Instant Transmission, where we discuss everything Dragon Ball. This has been your host, Todd.
And Dayton.
Don't forget, we're on Patreon and Discord. If you want to yank on our antennae, you can find us at patreon.com/ITDBpodcast. The Discord link will be in the episode description, but you can also find it in all of our other links at linktree/ITDBpodcast. Thank you all so much for your support. Be sure to join us next time as we get into the nitty-gritty of Dragon Ball Daima analytics. With Daima fully released, Dayton and I will be looking at how it was marketed, if what was promised was delivered, and how the fan base felt about the show. Did Toei botch Daima's marketing? How did the fan base rate the show? Are we going to gush more about the Tamagami 3 fight? Find out next time. And to all our fellow Dragon Ball fans, stay safe out there, and remember to keep rocking the dragon.
And are you going to tell them that we keep our antenna in our pants?
I was saving that detail for the after credits.